we have evidence for 2.3% of Bible characters. And this isn't a bad thing.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Drive Through History did an article in 2020, and this is what they said. Archaeological evidence of about 70 people named in the Old Testament and 32 named in the New Testament has been discovered, plus probably a few others who are referred to but not specifically named. Most of these people have been identified because of their names and titles appear on coins, stone, inscriptions, tablets, scarabs, stela, seals, ancient manuscripts, statues, sarcophagi, and ossuaries. Well, there are approximately 3,000 characters in the Old Testament, and out of those 3,000 people, we have alleged supposed evidence of at least 70 of them. So 70 divided by 3,000 is 0.023333. So to convert that number, we're going to move the decimal place 2 points to the right, and instead of 0.02333, we now have 2.333% or 2.3% of Bible characters that existed. Or at least Bible characters that we have archaeological historical evidence for based on the information from Drive Through History. Now, this isn't a bad thing. 2% out of 3,000 people in an ancient text that goes back 3,000 years ago, that is actually very good. Compared to when you look at other ancient texts like the Epic of Gilgamesh, I don't think we have any historical evidence from anybody existing who is written about in the Epic of Gilgamesh. We don't have any historical evidence for the story of Romulus and Remus, the Iliad and the Odyssey, the Bell Cycle, Enuma Elish, which those are completely mythical. And I don't think we have any evidence for any other ancient Near Eastern mythos or story or text. So 2.3%, when you compare that to the other literature that we have in the ancient world, that is literally, the Bible is a giant and the other texts are standing on the shoulders of the Bible. So at face value, a normal everyday layperson would look at this number and they would say 2.3%. Oh no, that's really bad. But 2.3%, when you know what you're comparing the biblical text to and comparative religions and intertextuality, when you compare the Bible to these other ancient Near Eastern texts, 2.3% is a lot. 3,000 Old Testament characters, 70 characters can be accounted for in the Old Testament and 32 in the New Testament. That's actually pretty darn good. Now, out of the characters who don't exist, so when you take Genesis chapters 1 to 11 into account, Genesis chapters 1 to 11 take up about 22% of the Bible, and depending on how you interpret Genesis chapters 1 to 11, if Genesis chapters 1 to 11 is not historical, then you have 22% of characters in the Old Testament definitely not existing compared to us having evidence for 2.3% of Bible characters. So we have evidence for 2% of Bible characters existing, and 22% of those characters in the Old Testament did not exist, depending on how you interpret the Genesis account. If you want to know more about this type of stuff, get my books in my bio.